Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Maisie if you are new here, and today we are going to do a tier ranking video of all of the books that I read last year. Also, I just want to say that I will be, of course, keeping this video spoiler free, so I won't be talking about any spoilers for any of these books. I'll just be kind of sharing where I will rank them and some of my opinions on them. And yeah, I don't want to ramble on, so let's get into first showing you the tiers. Okay, so my tiers are all, of course, inspired by Taylor Swift. So for my first tier, we have King of My Heart is my top tier for my favourite books that I read this year. And then we have so Gorgeous is my second tier. These are books that I really liked. They were great. They're not kind of quite up there as my favourites, but I really enjoyed them. They were just gorgeous. Next we have an interesting category, and I'm not gonna lie, this is maybe like one of my least favourite Taylor Swift songs. So we have I Knew You Were Trouble as my third category, and these are the books that kind of just, they're problematic, they're not great, but I just kind of had a good time. And that's what they were. They were a good time, but there's things wrong with them, and maybe they're a bit of a guilty pleasure. Like maybe I know that I shouldn't love them, but I do. Okay, so for our fourth category, we have so these are just the books that they were absolutely fine. That's it. Nothing else to say about them. They were just fine, and I don't think about them too much. But I don't not recommend them if they're books that sound interesting to you. And then our final category, a bit controversial because I love this song, but there's just the one line that I felt was apt for this category. So this category is It Over Now? And this is for those books that I just wanted to be over. They needed to be over. They were dragging and it wasn't good. Wasn't a good situation. So that's my bottom category. Okay, so there we had the categories. So now let's just dive in. These books don't appear to be in the order that I read them, so they just are as they are. So the first book on this list we have is City of Bones. This is the first book in the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. Now, I did read this series when I was a lot younger, but I wanted to reread this series because I really wanted to read The Infernal Devices, which I never read. So City of Bones is gonna have to go in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Now, this would have been different when I was younger. I've read so many better fantasy series now. Also, like the romance, it's just a bit all over the place. These books are not my favourite. City of Ashes, I'm gonna put it there as well. I don't think it's quite bad enough to go in Is It Over Now, but I also was not loving them. Okay, so next we have We Were Liars. Everybody read this book a long time ago and I never did, but I obviously heard a lot about it and about this amazing plot twist, so I decided this year to pick it up and read it, and I did, and it was a really quick read. I'm torn between I Knew You Were Trouble and Mr. Perfectly Fine because I enjoyed my time reading it, but I had already been aware that some people say the plot twist is amazing and some people say it's not great, and I had a feeling I was gonna think it wasn't great and I didn't. So I think I'm gonna put it in like I Knew You Were Trouble, because I knew going into it that this book was controversial and that people were like, this is way overhyped, it's not great. And I read it anyway. It wasn't great, but it was also not bad. So there it's go. Next we have Bright Side by Kim Holden. This is a sad book and I thought it was a romance. And there is definitely romance in it, but it was not what I expected at all. I didn't have an emotional connection to it. It did not make me cry. And I think that's kind of like the sole purpose of this book, is to make you cry. In fact, I feel harsh, but I kind of want to put it in Is It Over Now? But that feels harsh because, oh, I didn't hate it. No, I'm going to stand by my rating. I'm putting in Is It Over Now? And I'm sorry because I know that this is a favourite book for a lot of people, but for me it just did not hit. Next we have Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I enjoyed this book. It's a bit similar to Normal People, it's those kind of vibes, but it was not as good as Normal People for me, but I still liked it. I liked it quite a lot actually, more than I expected, I think. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. So this is All In is from the Naturals series, so let's like do the other Naturals books first. So we've got the first book, which is The Naturals. I loved this. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. It was addicting. I had a great time reading it, loved it. We then had Killer Instinct, which is the second book. Loved this one as well. And then we had All In. I think that was the next one. Yeah, because I only read 3 of them last year. So this is the third one. This is a 4-book series, by the way, a YA like crime mystery series. And All In, I just didn't like that much. I didn't hate it, but it was nowhere as good as the other books. I'm gonna put it in Mr. Perfectly Fine because it was just okay. There was nothing great about it. Okay, next here we have the first 2 books in the Mindfuck series, and I have only read these 2 books. Don't ask me why. I actually had a good time reading them, but I also just wasn't that connected to them, so I just haven't carried on. But I do want to carry on and finish the series. I'm gonna put both of them in I Knew You Were Trouble because I had a good time reading them. They were really quick, easy reads. Obviously they're very short. I know some people like read all 5 as one book, but they are problematic. This book is basically a romance between a serial killer and the detective who is like investigating her case of her murders. That doesn't seem like the best footing for a romance to start off on. Obviously he doesn't know who she is, but she knows who he is. It's gotta go in I Knew You Were Trouble. Okay, next here we have Vow of Thieves, but obviously let's start with Dance of Thieves because this is a duet. These are a YA fantasy duet, and the first book I absolutely loved. I don't think I love it enough to put it in King of My Heart, but I would put the first book in Gorgeous. I had a great time reading this. It was exactly what I wanted from a YA fantasy. Good romance, like good characters, really enjoyed it. However, I have never been so let down by a second book. I'm actually going to put it in Is It Over Now? Because I just wanted it to be over. I think that they did too much in the first book in terms of like character development and relationship development, that then there just wasn't any of that to go in the second book. So the second book was just all plot, and I want that. I want the relationship and character development as well, and there just was none of that really in the second book. So yeah, Is It Over Now is where that goes for me. Next we have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is obviously a favourite for a lot of people, and I finally read it this year. I'm going to put it in, I gave it 4 stars I think, but I'm torn between Gorgeous and Mr. Perfectly Fine because it's not a book that I like continue to think about that much. But I had a good time reading it actually. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous because I had a really good time reading it. It was really quick and easy to read. I do recommend it. The Truth About Heartbreak by B. Celeste. This is a brother's best friend romance, and to be honest, I can't remember that much about it. I don't think I hated it, but it's just so unmemorable to me. I'm gonna put it in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Okay, next we have If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. So I read this in my 24-hour readathon and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to put it in King of My Heart. This book did what Brightside tried to do, for me personally. It was a sad book. It was supposed to be a sad book, and I did find it sad and emotional, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of those books that I just didn't want to stop reading, which good because I was reading it in a 24-hour reading challenge, so I couldn't stop reading, but I didn't want to, and so it was perfect. It didn't make it feel like a chore to just sit and read it. Okay, next we have the Zodiac Academy books. Is this the first one? I'm pretty sure this is the first book, and I would say Gorgeous? A bit torn on my ratings for these books. I'm gonna put the first one in Gorgeous. I really enjoyed it. I loved the like new world. I loved the characters, and it was just fun. Okay, so the second book in Zodiac Academy I think is where the romance kind of starts, and it starts to get a little bit messed up. So second book I'm gonna put in I Knew You Were Trouble, and to be honest, I'm gonna put the others in there as well. It's a hot mess is the best way to describe it. So yeah, they're going there. Okay, next we have Fight For Me by Corinne Michaels. This is the second book in the Arrowwood Brothers series. Again, I read this book in my 24-hour readathon, and this one I'm going to put in Mr. Perfectly Fine. I had a good time reading it, but I just don't think I can put it in gorgeous. Like, it was good, it was fine. It was much better than the first book in the series, because the first book was Insta-Love, which... Next we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. This is a fantasy. This is very different to any other fantasy book that I've read. I really enjoyed it. King of My Heart. One of the characters and romance in this book I died over. Maybe I'm problematic, but I've also seen other people feeling the same way, so it's not just me, okay? But King of My Heart. I will say it starts very slow, so if you've like picked it up and tried to read it and you're finding that it's really slow at the start, like just push through because it gets so good. Okay, next we have Good Girl Bad Blood, which is the second book in the... I was going to say How to Get Away with Murder. That's a TV show. What's it called? A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This was fine. I listened to the audiobook and it was good. I liked the audiobook. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first book. I still want to finish the series, but yeah, I would put this one as fine. A Court of Silver Flames. Oh, this took me like... This was like my third attempt reading this book. Like previously I just could not get into this book. But then this last time that I tried it, I can't remember when it was, like towards the start of this year, it just hit and I just managed to read it. I had a good time. It's not as good, in my opinion, as especially the first two ACOTAR books, but maybe on par with the third one. I'm gonna put it in... It's perfectly fine. This is weird because this is a bit of a mixed category because like A Court of Silver Flames, I gave 4 stars. I really liked it. But I just don't think I want to put it in gorgeous. Next we have People Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I have not had a good past with Emily Henry books. However, this is my like favourite one that I have read. However, it's still not gorgeous. It's still Mr. Perfectly Fine. This one, this is a bit similar in terms of trope to like Love and Other Words. But this one, the conflict, so underwhelming. Like, no, we could have done better than that. Yeah, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Next we have Thrive, which is the only book in the Addicted series that I read this year, apparently. I put it off for ages because I thought it would be a bit repetitive from what happened in the first 2 Calloway books. Sorry, this is Thrive in the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which is also a crossover series with the Calloway Sisters series. But I liked it more than I thought I was going to, but I'm still going to put it in Mr. Perfectly Fine. I don't think it belongs in Gorgeous. I wouldn't say it belongs in I Knew You Were Trouble, so it's just going to go in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Better than the movies, King of My Heart. I absolutely loved this book. It was just everything that a YA romance should be. This is by Lynn Painter, and yeah, it's a YA romance and it's just so cute. Very similar kind of to the movie The Duff, which I also really like, and yeah, lots of rom-com references. Just like wholesome, cute, sweet, fun YA romance, and I recommend. Next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in that trilogy. The first book I'm going to put in Gorgeous. I really enjoyed it, had a great time. It was fast paced and yeah, I loved it. But the second book, sorry, I don't know, I've got a mixture of covers, it's just was from Goodreads. The second book, The Ballad of Never After, is going to go in King of My Heart. That's my favourite book in the series. I loved it so much. Yeah, the romance in that second book is amazing. And in Curse for True Love, while I'm here, I'm just going to pop that in Gorgeous as well. Overall, I really like this series. I recommend. All of the books are good. The second book is immaculate in my opinion. Okay, so next we have some books in the Plated Prisoner series, but obviously we may as well start with the first book, which is Guild down here. Guild I thought was fine. So then Glint I think is the second book, and I loved that book. So I'm going to put that one in Gorgeous. I could actually put it in King of My Heart. I'm going to put it in King of My Heart. I loved it. And then Gleam, which is the third book, I'm going to put that one in Gorgeous. Better than Guild, not as good as Cullen. I still need to continue on with the series, but yeah, those are the first 3 books in the series that I have read. Next we have Bridgerton, The Duke and I, which is the first book. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, but it also wasn't great. It's just going to go in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Actually, no, it's going to go in I Knew You Were Trouble because, oh my god, that scene, I knew about that scene from the show. Love the show, by the way. But reading about it, problematic. So that book is trouble, and that's where that's going. Next we have Reckless Girls. Is it over now? Oh, I think I actually DNF'd this book at like 70% or 80% or something. This is a thriller, and it just wasn't good. Like, I didn't even get to like the plot twist point because I was just so bored. I just did not care. Next we have The Cheat Sheet. Honestly, I'm actually going to put this one, it's by Sarah Adams, by the way, and this is a friends to lovers romance. I'm going to put it in Mr. Perfectly Fine. There was nothing wrong with this book, but I don't love friends to lovers. It's just not a favourite trope of mine, I don't think. Yeah, it's just not one of my favourites. And yeah, I enjoyed this book, but it was just like a kind of quick, easy read. It wasn't anything amazing in my opinion, so it's going in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Next we have The No Show by Beth O'Leary. This is I'd say it's a fiction book. I wouldn't really say it's a romance, although there is romance in it. I'm going to put this one in Is It Over Now. I really didn't enjoy it. There was one like character's story and romance that I really enjoyed, but the rest I just didn't really care about. So, and that bit that I did enjoy was like a very minor part of the book. So yeah, it's going to go in Is It Over Now. Next we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is my first and only Abby Jimenez book that I've read, and I didn't think I was gonna like this, to be honest. This is a reverse age gap, and it's also like city girl, like glamorous girl, like small town guy, and yeah, I just wasn't sure that it was gonna be for me, but I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put this one in Gorgeous. Next we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I know this is a favourite for so many people. For me, as I've said before, People Meet on Vacation is my favourite one that I've read by Emily Henry. Book Lovers, I don't want to put it in It's Over Now because it wasn't bad, but I just also didn't love it, so it's going to go in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Next we have Set On You by Amy Lee. This is the first book in her Influencer series, and this follows a plus-size fitness influencer and a fireman. I can't remember the trope, but it was good, it was cute, but it was nothing amazing. I'm gonna put this one in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. This was my last book of the year, and I'm putting it in Is It Over Now. I've seen so many people say that this was like the best Christmas romance that they've read, and I've not really read any Christmas romances that I love. This was bad. It was insta-love, and I just hate insta-love. Like, please, like, never recommend me a book that's insta-love because I just know I will not like it. Jack McCurdy, I'm Glad My Mum Died. Feels weird to put this in any of these categories, to be honest, but I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. I thought it was very well written. It was a compelling story, an interesting story. I found it really interesting to hear about people's lives and the difficulties that they have faced that we just have no idea about. And yeah, I think it's a really good memoir. If you haven't read it, definitely recommend that one. I have 2 of them here, so we're just going to ignore this other one. Next we have Scarred, which is, in fact, I've got Hooked here, so let's do this one first. So Hooked and Scarred are in Emily McIntyre's Never After series, I think it's called, Never After. They're inspired by characters of like Disney, but like the bad characters. I don't know why I'm really struggling to explain this. So Hooked is kind of like a play on Hook from Peter Pan, and Scarred is a play on Scar from The Lion King. So Hooked I really enjoyed, but in a like, this is very problematic kind of way. It's going to go in I Knew You Were Trouble. I knew it was kind of like a dark romance. It was dark. Scarred, however, I didn't like. I'm going to put this one in Is It Over Now? It was very confusing to me because it's like, it was kind of like fantasy, but it also wasn't. And I didn't know what was going on. Like, I just wasn't there. It just didn't do it for me. So yeah, Is It Over Now? Scarred. I struggled to get through that book, unfortunately. The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. Now, I am a huge Lynn Painter fan. I loved Mr. Wrong Number, I loved Better Than the Movies, and then I went into The Love Wager with really high expectations and I just didn't love it, unfortunately, and I'm really sad to do this, but I'm gonna put it in Is It Over Now? I don't know why, I just like the romance, it just didn't do it for me. Next we have The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This was the first Freida McFadden book that I read, and I think when I read it, this was like the first thriller that I'd read in a very long time. And I loved it, such a page turner. It was really great. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. Next we have Consider Me by Becca Mack. This is a hockey romance and it was so long and I just did not like it. It's gonna go in Is It Over Now? I just wanted this book to be over. I just remember it took me such a long time to read because I just wasn't vibing with it. I didn't feel the romance. Yeah, this one just wasn't for me. Next we have The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, which is the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxa duology, but there's like a novella in between. So The Serpent and the Wings of the Night I really liked. I'm going to put it in Gorgeous. I had a great time reading this first book. This is a fantasy romance series with a kind of like Hunger Games game, like trial scenario going on, and also there are vampires. And yeah, I just had a great time reading the first book. I really enjoyed it. I liked the romance in the first book. And then the novella, Six Scorched Roses, I also loved. This follows like different characters who kind of come into the second book, but not even that much, to be honest. So I was quite surprised when I read the next book that we needed this novella, but I'm not complaining because I really enjoyed it. And then the last book is The Ashes and a Star-Cursed King, and I did not like this. I'm gonna put it in Is It Over Now? Honestly, it was such a letdown for me compared to the other books in this series. I just didn't enjoy it, unfortunately. It was very kind of politics heavy, I think, and also the romance, I don't know, it was just lacking for me. Yeah, I just didn't really enjoy it, unfortunately. Next we have All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I'm going to put it in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Didn't have any strong feelings towards this. I just had it on my shelf for a long time and needed to read it, and it was fine. X's and O's by Amy Lee. This is the second book in the Influencers series, To Set On You, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to put it in Gorgeous. This one reminds me a bit of the film What's Your Number? If you have seen that, it's kind of similar. She's kind of going back through her ex-boyfriends, trying to find the one because she wants to have her like, she's a book influencer and she wants to have her very own second chance romance. So she is kind of going back through her exes, trying to meet up with them and see if there's anything there. And her new roommate, can't remember his name, but he is kind of helping her with that, and it's good. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This was her like new release in 2023. I enjoyed this. It's another like romance in STEM. It's similar to Love Theoretically, which is the only other one I've read, but you know what? It's a formula that works and I enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. Then we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Oh, this is a really tough one for me. I'm torn between King of My Heart and Gorgeous. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. It gave me such good vibes. It was so cozy. This is a cozy fantasy with a bit of romance in it. I really enjoyed it and I really recommend it. Next we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I'm just going to put this in Mr. Perfectly Fine. I know lots of people really like this book. For me, it was nothing amazing. It was fine. This is again a like ice hockey romance. He is an ice hockey player and she is an ice skater. Next we have Things We Hide From the Light, which is the second book in the Knock 'Em Out series. I don't know why I'd put off reading this book for such a long time, but I finally did read it and it was fine. I didn't like it as much as the first one in the series. And then let's just do Things We Left Behind. I'm going to put this one in Gorgeous. I really liked it. It didn't quite meet my expectations of Sloane and Lucian's romance, but I still really enjoyed it. And I think if I didn't have those expectations, like, I wouldn't have been let down by reading it. Like, if I just kind of went in without any expectations of them. I've got a temperature warning. 1 second. Okay, now we have Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This is the only other Frida McFadden book that I've read. This one, the plot twist was ridiculous. I had a good time reading it, but then like the plot twist was just ridiculous. I'm gonna put it in I Knew You Were Trouble because like it's a good fun book, but it is, as I said, ridiculous. I don't know if I recommend it because when I like read it and finished it, I was just like, what? But not in a good way. I was just like, it makes no sense. Anyway, then we have Divine Rivals. I'm going to put this in King of My Heart. I loved Divine Rivals. It's one of my favourite books of the year for sure. Yeah, a great YA fantasy romance, and I can't wait to read the second book that has recently come out, Rufus Vows. And yeah, next we have Fear the Flames by Olivia Darling. I would put this in, I'm going to put it in Gorgeous. Now I know that this is now going to be traditionally published, and the publisher and author are making some changes to the book, I think, to like basically add in some more elements to it. In some ways that's a bit annoying because it means that I think I'm gonna have to reread the new version before the next book comes out. But I also think that it's probably a good thing because I did think that this book was lacking a few things, but overall I think it's like a really interesting plot and story. You've got a good like found family aspect to it. There's dragons, which are cool, and a good romance. So yeah, I would put it in Gorgeous. Next we have Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, King of My Heart. This book broke me. Not a day goes by that I don't think about this. Oh, do you like my nails? Okay, and then we're gonna have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Unfortunately, I didn't like this one. It's going in Is It Over Now, because I did just want it to be over. I know loads of people love this book, and I expected to. I didn't gel with it for some reason. So yeah, for me, it's got to go in the bottom tier. If I Have to Be Haunted, I read this in my fantasy romance reading blog, I believe, and it's gonna go in Mr. Perfectly Fine. This is a YA fantasy romance, sorry, and it was good, but it wasn't anything special. It was fine. Okay, now we're getting to Throne of Glass. So let's start with The Assassin's Blade. I'm gonna put that in Mr. Perfectly Fine. This is like the prequel book. Then we have Throne of Glass. I loved Throne of Glass. I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous. I just thought it was really fun, the whole setting and competition and stuff that was going on. I loved it. And then we had Crown of Midnight. Again, I'm gonna put that in Gorgeous. I really enjoyed this as well. I loved those early books. I know lots of people don't, but I really did. Then we have Heir of Fire, which again, so the first half of Heir of Fire I wasn't vibing with. I was kind of very upset to have said goodbye to what had just happened. But then the second half of the book I really did enjoy. I'm gonna put it in, so I'm torn between Fine and Gorgeous. No, I'm gonna put it in Gorgeous because we get the introduction of a really good character, so yeah. And then Queen of Shadows, King of My Heart. I really enjoyed this one. Got a lot of closure from it, and yeah, it was just really good. Empire of Storms, King of My Heart. Oh my god. Two characters who you get a lot more of in Empire of Storms and are introduced in like a romance that happens in this book. I'm obsessed. Like, it has killed me. So Empire of Storms holds a special place in my heart for that. Tower of Dawn, I'm gonna put in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Like, I just wasn't as bothered by it, but it was fine. Okay, then we have Flawless and Heartless by Elsie Silver. Oh, and Powerless. Let's do them all at once. So Flawless, this is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, which is like a small town cowboy-esque romance series. Flawless, I'm putting it in Mr. Perfectly Fine. I was a little bit disappointed because I'd heard such great things. It was fine, it was nothing special. However, Heartless can go in Gorgeous. I really loved Heartless, and Powerless I also really enjoyed as well. And overall, yeah, I enjoy this series and I do recommend it. Next we have My Dark Romeo. Is It Over Now? I detested this book quite a lot. I thought I would really like it because I have enjoyed LJ Shen books in the past, and I love My Darling Venom by Parker S. Huntington. This is a book that is like a collaboration from both of those authors. However, this, the romance was so strange. Okay, next we have Mad Honey. This is a literary fiction book and I really enjoyed it so much more than I expected to. It's going in Gorgeous. Talks about some very important and interesting topics from different perspectives, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this book and would recommend if you have any interest in reading it. Next we have Sweet Dandelion. So this is by Michaela Spencer and I loved the Wildflowers duet by her. So I was really excited to read this one and I'd heard lots of people really like it. Let me just say, so this is an age gap romance and it is a romance between a student and her what are they called, guidance counsellor kind of thing. So she basically went through some trauma. At her previous school there was a shooting. She went through some trauma and so she's like a year older than all of the other seniors, so I think she is 18, and she enrolls in a new school, and because of everything that she's been through she has to see a school counsellor to make sure she's doing okay, and this is a romance between them. And then, okay, she is 18, but it still just felt wrong. I'm gonna have to put it in Is It Over Now? I couldn't vibe with it. Next we have The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This was a bit ridiculous. I kind of it was quick and easy and fun to read, but the romance was ridiculous and I didn't even necessarily ship it. I think I'm going to put it in I Knew You Were Trouble. But this book is an angsty romance book, and we all know that I love angst. However, this was so in your face, non-stop angst. It was too much for me, it was just forced. So yeah, it's going in I Knew You Were Trouble because I did enjoy it, it was fun, but it was ridiculous. And then the last book we have on here is Fourth Wing, and I am going to put this, well, I want to put it in King of My Heart. There we go. Okay, so that is our final ranking. We have a lot of books in Gorgeous and quite a few in Mr. Perfectly Fine. Sad to see that I have more in Is It Over Now than King of My Heart, but yeah, I would say I didn't have the best reading year this year. This year being 2023. I don't know why I said that. We are solidly into 2024 now. Yeah, so it wasn't the best reading year that I've ever had. Didn't have very many 5 stars, so hopefully 2024 will be better for me. I would love to know your opinion on any of these books. Do you agree with my rankings? Do you disagree? I hope that you enjoyed this tier ranking video. Let me know if you want to see more tier ranking videos. I really enjoy watching them and it's fun to do as well. So yeah, thank you for watching everybody, and I would love to see you in the next one. Bye!